Today we'll be discussing the lost piece of media, SpongeBob Rehydrated. The SpongeBob SquarePants franchise has a lot of lost media, ranging from official segments to unofficial mockumentaries, and it's not really surprising as to why. The show's characters are household names, so it's only logical that a number of its derivatives end up on the cutting room floor. The last time I discussed this franchise was when I covered the story A Day with SpongeBob SquarePants, a bootleg whose backstory was much more convoluted than it seemed. Unlike A Day with SpongeBob, however, this project seemed to be produced officially by Nickelodeon. Our story begins in January of 2016 with an anonymous post from 4chan's Comic and Cartoons board, titled "Oh boy, another lost SpongeBob thing." It was a short and to-the-point post. The poster believed that in 2003, Nickelodeon had aired a non-canon SpongeBob short that was a parody of the most recent Matrix installment. Their evidence for this was a resurfaced bumper that featured short clips of SpongeBob, dressed up as the franchise's main character. The bumper they referenced contained less than 5 seconds of the relevant footage, and only resurfaced 2 days prior. Because the post caption was simply speculation, this search would begin with even less information than A Day with SpongeBob. This didn't gain much traction, receiving only 8 replies before being archived. Fortunately, one of these replies seemed to provide a promising lead. 20 minutes after the thread had been created, an anonymous poster commented that they had once owned a copy of the short on VHS. They then asserted some additional details about the film. The Anon claimed that the short ran for 10 minutes, and that on his VHS it aired before Jimmy Neutron. They also claimed that the short had been titled The Sponge Tricks, though they provided no verification of any of these claims. In spite of the information's questionable credibility, later that day an article about the Sponge Tricks was added to the Lost Media Wikia, although it was very poorly written. The first draft of the article was only 61 words long, including the link. Most of the information about the short was unverifiable. In fact, the only thing that it had going for it was that it had been featured in an official Nickelodeon bumper. Without that stipulation though, the rest of the search would have been much more difficult. But even still, the available footage raised a lot more questions than it answered. Like, why was the short animated in 3D? Those who believed in the second 4chaners assertions speculated that this oddity could have been related to it airing before Jimmy Neutron. After all, Jimmy Neutron was also animated in 3D and was done so on an extremely tight budget. Perhaps their methods could have been applied during the production of the Sponge Tricks. On January 30th, a Wikia user by the name of Angry75501 speculated that the Sponge Tricks could have been part of a fan-made Newgrounds animation that shared the same name. This animation had been uploaded in 2004, which was approximately the same time frame as the bumper. But upon further analysis, the theory was quickly dismissed. Firstly, it doesn't make sense for Nickelodeon to use some random fan's animation a year before it was even released. But more importantly, the Newgrounds Sponge Tricks was animated in 2D, not 3D. And as for the name, it was probably a pure coincidence. Just a year prior, the film The Matrix Reloaded had premiered, making it very topical in 2004. As mentioned before, the initial 4chan thread didn't receive much attention, but even though the search didn't pick up there, it did continue on other online communities. On March 8th, a thread about the tape was started on the Lost Media Wiki discussion subforum. The thread's creator expressed hope that it would lead to the same level of dedication as the search for A Day with SpongeBob. This thread would become the search effort's home base. The first thing on the agenda was to discuss the legitimacy of the Sponge Tricks claim. In case you hadn't figured it out by now, 4chan is full of trolls, and considering the supposed tape owner provided no proof that anything he said was true, the searchers were rightfully skeptical. After all, up until this point, the post was essentially the extent of their knowledge on the project. It was important to determine whether or not it was worth taking seriously. The 4chan post claimed that it was a short that aired before Jimmy Neutron, but if this was the case, why would they take up a 10-minute time slot with little to no fanfare? SpongeBob is their biggest IP, and 10 minutes of animation is quite an investment. One proposed that it could have aired before the Jimmy Neutron film, but that timeline didn't line up either. The film had premiered in 2001. Finally, it was pointed out that the CGI didn't compare to Jimmy Neutron's. While Jimmy Neutron had a lot of errors, it never looked as bad as this 3D SpongeBob video. Although they were desperate for information, the searchers wisely discarded the 4chan post as a troll, so they began to investigate leads independently. Since they knew that this was an officially associated product, they began contacting animators that worked for or at Nickelodeon in 2003. On April 29th, their efforts paid off. It was discovered that an additional 30 seconds of footage from the SpongeTrix existed on an ex-Nick Digital animator's 2013 portfolio. The new footage showed the same SpongeBob model from the bumper fighting an army of Patrick clones all dressed up as Agent Smith. The footage, unlike the commercial, was of an extremely high quality, though its audio had been dubbed over with the portfolio's music. As you may remember, the original 4chan post referred to the short as the SpongeTrix. Well, this rumor was finally debunked with the discovery of the animator's portfolio, which referred to the footage as SpongeBob Rehydrated. This title was a clear riff on Matrix Reloaded. The video had been uploaded to an account called Goopy Rossi, though it had been found out that the animator's real name was Randy Gossman. Searchers from the Lost Media Wiki swiftly attempted to contact the uploader, though he seemed to ignore all their attempts. They would message him on very clearly active accounts, only to receive no response regarding the short. Though they knew that more animation existed, the exact nature of the short was still unknown, so they began researching Gossman's connection to Nickelodeon. They found from his portfolio that he had worked on the 3D SpongeBob adventure games by THQ, which led to some speculation that the footage was from an unused in-game cutscene. Others, desperate to hold on to the 4chan post in spite of it being thoroughly debunked, continued to hang on to the idea that it was a full television special. And finally, it was even proposed that it could have simply been what we've known already, a bumper and nothing more. Though if that were the case, it seemed a bit strange to give it such an elaborate title card. With this, it seemed that the online community was close to finally getting some answers, and new information was soon to follow that would crack this case wide open. What were these new clues? Well, we'll find out after a quick word from our sponsor. Do you want to know an easy way to save money? Lower the interest rate on your credit card debt with a credit card consolidation loan from Lightstream. You see, Lightstream rewards consumers who have good credit with a great interest rate and no fees. You can get a credit card consolidation loan from 5.89% APR with autopay. Loans are from $5,000 to $100,000 and you can choose your funding date as soon as today. I've checked them out myself and yes, I can attest that their interest rates are very good. And my listeners get an additional interest rate discount on top of Lightstream's already low rates. The only way to get this discount, however, is to go to lightstream.com/mysteries. That's lightstream.com/mysteries. Subject to credit approval. Rate includes 0.5% autopay discount. Terms and conditions apply and offers are subject to change without notice. Visit lightstream.com for more information. After weeks of continued silence from Gossman, searchers moved on and attempted to contact other members of the production team. They were hopeful that someone could provide them with more insight. In August, one searcher used Twitter to ask longtime crew member Vincent Waller about the short. He replied that it had to have been unofficial, likely fan-made due to its quality. But this response didn't seem to make sense, as the bumper clearly proved that it had been produced at least in association with Nickelodeon. Perhaps he was implying that the bumper had been faked, but his response was largely ignored. It's been said although Vincent had been on the team from the very beginning, he did very little in 2003. Another searcher attempted to contact the creator of Chowder, who once worked on the SpongeBob production team as a storyboard artist and writer. They received an interesting response back. He said, "I don't remember that short, but it might have been produced by a different studio for something other than TV." This response complicated things, but it also explained a few others. If this were the case, then that meant that the searchers attempted to contact ex-members of SpongeBob production teams in vain, explaining Waller's disregard. But on the other hand, this would greatly widen the search's range for potential contacts, making it more difficult to find relevant sources. On September 5th, the moderator for the Lost Media Wiki named KoboChad posted in the tape's forum thread, detailing a lead that he had attempted to follow to no avail. When searching through the Twitter archives, he had found that in 2013, an account named Soph Says Quack had tweeted about how they just watched a SpongeBob episode about the Matrix. Oh my freaking god, this episode is a SpongeBob version of the Matrix, just realized. Weirdest episode of SpongeBob I've ever seen, but it's hilarious. Kobo reached out to her with some footage of Rehydrated for reference, asking if this is what she saw. She responded, "I think it was, bud." She never responded to any further inquiries, and after that, the lead dried up. In fact, the whole search would slowly die after that point, with no significant progress being made for months. It had been largely inactive when on April 5th, 2017, YouTuber VeilskyBum uploaded a video about the short. It was called Mystery of the Lost SpongeBob Short, and as of June of 2018, it accumulated nearly 500,000 views. It was just enough of an attention boost to rejuvenate the interest that the search needed. Viewers began flooding the SpongeBob wiki and spamming the contact emails of the portfolio's uploader. This newfound attention would finally incite Gossman to respond. He was sick of the constant email spam and was upset with all the untrue rumors present in the video. So later that same day, he created an account named Gossman on the SpongeBob Wikia and wrote a blog spot clarifying exactly what SpongeBob Rehydrated was. He said, "Earlier today I received an email asking me to come here and make this post. I don't know who sent the email or how they figured out who I was, but I would like to clear up these untrue rumors about the SpongeBob-Matrix short." According to Gossman, the animation was in fact made by the same team who had worked on the THQ SpongeBob video games, hence the resemblance to its cutscenes. He also confirmed that it was made in 2003, but dispelled the idea that it was ever a lost episode or a 10-minute short. As it turns out, this whole time, it was just a 40-second long clip. According to Gossman, the crew had made it for fun in their free time, and it only saw broadcasts because Nick decided it would be fitting for a bumper, hence why none of the production crew knew about it. The next day, VeilskyBum uploaded another video about the project, this time attempting to correct the record and discuss the revelations. When Gossman had written the blog spot, he had hoped that it would stop the constant flood of emails. Unfortunately, the spam only worsened due to the second video. So, in a last-ditch effort to stop people from spamming him, he requested that the moderators delete his post permanently. After this, the portfolio that had contained the additional rehydrated footage was eventually set to private. Technically, SpongeBob Rehydrated is still a lost piece of media, because we never were able to find the original audio clip that went with the short film. But after we found out the story about the movie, everybody kinda lost interest. That kinda happens sometimes with lost media hunting though. The end result is not always the most exciting thing ever, and that should be expected. So I'll wrap up the video here, and until next time, thanks for watching.